Welcome to episode 26 of Comic Book Nation, the official podcast of Comicbook.com, or as I'm going to be calling this one, the beginning of Phase 4. That's right, we are here, and we have reunited the Comic Book Nation Trinity. It is me, Matthew Aguilar, Brandon Davis, and this is the start of a new universe because we have all seen Avengers Endgame, and we are here to just do one thing and one thing only. We are going to review Endgame, talk spoilers, and talk about what this movie does to set us up for the next phase of Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. That's it. So, obviously, if you haven't seen Avengers Endgame, please stop listening / watching right now unless you are ready to jump into full spoilers, because that is where we are headed. Guys, are you ready to do this?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, let's get into it. I think we're going to talk and just kind of start with giving our impressions of the movie overall. And, you know, in full spoiler mode if you want. But then we'll get into some of the deeper points of the movie because there is so much to talk about, so much to unpack. And we're going to get to it. And I thought we'd start with you, Mr. Brandon Davis, since you wrote our official Comicbook.com Avengers Endgame review. And you are like the only one up here who's actually seen the film twice. All of us, me, Matt, producer Jim Viscardi, we're all just kind of coming off what minimal sleep we got.
I'm still coming off that high. I'm just like, give me more.
We've all just like seen this movie and are just rolling in here. But you, Brandon Davis, you went to the Avengers Endgame premiere. You've seen it. You went last night. You saw it in IMAX. So you have this kind of double perspective. Take us through your review and what you think about the movie.
It's okay. Man, that movie is just unbelievably
Look, don't
good.
like Luke lightsaber this whole thing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, whatever. Nah, man, start to finish, I think it's just, I liked it so much more the second time. I felt like the first time I watched it, in the first 45 minutes, I sat there and I thought, oof, I kind of hope this gets better. But then that's because I was too busy trying to figure out what's going to happen and like looking forward to the big fights that I'm waiting for and all this stuff. The second time I watched it, I appreciated those first 45 minutes so much more because the setup was actually very interesting. All of that, they had the tracking down Ronin, getting Scott Lang out of the quantum. I mean, it's kind of cheap that a rat stepped on a button and let Scott Lang out of the quantum realm, and that ended up saving everybody. But like just the Tony and Cap relationship, I didn't expect it to be so hostile at first. That was great to see. It was very unexpected, and then it became kind of, you know, the backbone of the film. And just as a fan, I mean, the movie itself is incredible. It's the most entertaining thing I've ever seen. I think I can't think of anything like it. It took everything you like from other movies and made it work in one. But speaking of taking things from other movies, if you're a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe like we are, I mean, I'm a huge MCU fan. It's no secret. I love these movies. There are so many just payoffs and tributes and little homage, like just things like as small, like when Iron Man jumps out of Avengers Tower in 2012, after we're already just geeked about going back to the Battle of New York, he does the exact same thing when he jumps out of the building like he did in the first Avengers movie when he's waiting for the suit to catch him. And then that's not a really small one. There's other ones, a bigger one, like Thor getting to say goodbye to his mom, and a lot of us hate on the Dark World, but they made it important and they rewarded you for watching it because
they made me love that movie even more.
Yeah, later that day, she dies. So you get that moment of Thor, like Tony gets the moment with Howard, Thor gets the moment with Frigga, and then but there's little tiny details like when the Wasp shows up and she's there with Ant-Man and she says Cap, and she looks at Scott Lang and she smiles because she's like, oh, you do call him Cap. Nobody who hasn't watched Ant-Man and the Wasp gets that, but you get it because she used to make fun of him for calling him Cap. You know, I just think they took everything fans have grown to love about the MCU, everything fans have said they want to see, except for Bucky Steve Rogers canon, and they made it all happen.
That's true.
They just did such a good job. They did such a good job. They even they made Joe Russo the first openly gay character in the MCU. I was like, all right, we know this.
Yeah, that was
Great.
That was great.
Yeah, it was great. It was just so, and it all fit. It all fit. The A4, all the women in that one shot. Like, I don't know what else somebody could. What else could you want from this movie? I don't know. I'm kind of bad. My boy Thanos got killed twice. Twice. The disrespect. But Like, I don't know what else you could have wanted. I had such high expectations, and I think it exceeded them.
Yeah, I think jumping in, like, yeah, I think expectations is a good word to kind of pass the ball on, because I think that's what you describe, and why I wanted to hear you go first is because, like I said, you've seen it twice. For me, I'm still here, and I'm kind of like in the process of just, actually processing the film as opposed to my expectations of the film. And yeah, it's so crazy because the film does play in such an unexpected way to what we thought. I mean, we have been swimming in theories for a year now.
None of them were right.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna
none
say,
of them
almost,
were
yeah,
right.
none of them
Like,
were
yeah,
correct.
none
There
of
were
them
some that were
correct.
close. I know someone in the comment section is saying, I said Captain America is going to stay in the past. Yeah, we kind of all
Yeah,
did,
we all
but it
kinda
all
knew
still
that.
went differently than you thought it would go.
Right.
Even though that happened, it still ended
So ended
differently.
up in a way.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I honestly, I'll let you finish, Kofi, and then I'll.
No, I mean, like, yeah, I did an article betting the odds of who was going to live and who was going to die. That was
Who picked Black Widow? Nobody picked Black Widow
I
to
did.
die.
I said it was moderate because I thought that she would sacrifice. We actually did say I did. She would
That is,
sacrifice
and I tell you
That's a
what,
good
that's
call.
probably one of my biggest issues with the movie.
Yeah,
Black
I
Widow
have a big
dying?
issue with that. Yeah, we're gonna get into some of that stuff too about the issues, but just overall, like, yeah, the expectations. The Russo brothers do so. This movie is so packed on just a blockbuster movie level with so much spectacle and stuff that you just take it for granted after a while. Like things like just throwing a whole time travel movie into the middle of a movie where it's not even like the biggest point of the movie. It's just a self-contained story in the middle about them going to all these points in the past and doing things. And you get moments like Captain America fighting Captain America.
and America's ass.
Which looked amazing and like seamless. And you're just like, but it's like such just a moment in this movie that you just don't even appreciate or take in for granted. And like, as I was driving in here and like really having it sink in, I'm just thinking about all of the images we saw that were just so amazing and like next level for superhero movies. I mean, the Cap versus Cap fight, just Cap versus Thanos with the sword or the hammer with Mjolnir.
Going all
Yeah.
Ray Kylo Ren on
Like,
it.
yeah.
When that hammer started to move, the first time I saw it, I sat up and I said, "Oh, it's going to Cap." And I was like, "Hope," but I said it like with hope. I didn't know.
Yeah.
But I was like, "That hammer's going to Cap."
Yeah, and that was
Oh
the moment
my-
when people in the theater just like
Yeah, people love it.
Did you guys have really good energy in the theater?
Oh,
Yeah.
we did.
Because
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
I mean, it at points I was kind of like I didn't want to hear anything, but then I was with the crowd too. Like people were like, "Get it, Cap! Get it!"
Yeah, it was
And
like
people
watching
were
a
like,
sporting
"Oh, no."
event. People were cheering like we were watching a sporting event.
stood and clapped when Cap said "Avengers Assemble."
it was-
Yeah,
it was-
right there. Our audience clapped
I was-
multiple times.
we
in
went
this
nuts
movie.
for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, so, yeah, I mean, it's so hard to do it because I have to see this movie again and really let it sink in. But like you said, the power of just taking all of these movies and, in Infinity War, we were talking about it in a different way. It was the novelty of seeing people meet for the first time or hang out. But this movie really pays back everything down to just like the Peggy Carter TV series, if you watch that. And I was actually a fan of that, and seeing Hugh Darcy just show up for like a shot as Jarvis and still driving, like the deep cuts were so deep and
so
just
rewarding.
so rewarding, like you
They
said.
were so
And,
rewarding.
Like, yeah, there
you
are,
didn't get the
well,
Agents of Shield, but that's fine.
No, I know. Like, yeah.
Oh, well.
Well, we pretend just sidestep that whole thing. But,
I'm kind of surprised that they put Jarvis in because they do totally snub all TV in the big screen MCU. They just act like TV doesn't exist.
Agent Carter is kind of it's become a cult classic.
But Agent
kind of
Carter
beloved.
truly spun from the MCU one
right.
shot.
But so now the Agent Carter events kind of can't have happened, right?
I mean, that's like the big plot hole question that
Yeah.
we can get into. But yeah, it just makes it seem you can't have unless it all happens after.
Like
I
with
don't
Captain
remember
America
when.
there?
I don't remember how Agent Carter totally ended.
Or did it happen all before that? Before he came back?
Well, Agent Carter would happen, before he came back.
So they leave that they don't
Yeah.
answer that question
Yeah.
specifically,
No,
so they don't have
the only change I was thinking about that with Cap, and yeah, that ending, that last shot. I mean, I came on here and said like the first Avenger was like a very meaningful thing for me, like the ending and him not getting the date. So that last shot, I didn't cry like in the movie. I was proud because I was so prepared that people said I was going to cry that I was like, I'm not going to do it, especially not to the people I was next to, but.
The
Yeah,
cheeseburger,
that one
the
got me.
cheeseburger line did
Yeah,
get
which
you?
which
That's
which
what
line
broke
which
me.
line hit you in the feels or which moment made you cry or feel the most? Because for me, I mean, when when they flipped the Infinity War and it was Peter Parker saying goodbye to Tony, and I mean Tom Holland did such a good job. I think Jeremy Renner did an incredible job too. Yeah. Jeremy Renner acting was amazing. That was the first one that got me, but the one that got me the most was when Pep comes over and she tells him, "You can rest now."
Yep,
And earlier in the film, by the way, when he discovered time travel, she said to him, "Would you be able to rest?"
Yeah, like,
And
no,
then-
the whole Pepper Potts and Gwyneth Paltrow's role in this was so, understatedly powerful but good. Like, seeing the proof that Tony Stark has a heart thing.
That's great. Yeah.
The
Memorial,
cheeseburgers
that got
line,
me.
though, that cheeseburgers line from
And
Jon
that was-
Favreau, when
Yeah,
he
and it
looks
was
at her and
just
says,
having
"Let
Jon
me get you all the
Favreau up there
cheeseburgers."
and seeing that was just again such a deep cut. Like saying goodbye to the thing that he started. Like, yeah, I mean, there's just all of that.
Whatever happened to
all
Lady Sif?
family stuff, like the family stuff. Like I always say, like family stuff now gets me because
Yep.
having a family.
Yeah.
So like the Hawkeye thing in the beginning, like really messed
That
with
hit
me.
hard, yeah.
Unexpectedly, the Ant-Man coming back and 5 years later and seeing his daughter thing. Like,
Oh,
really
Paul Rudd
messed
did a
with
great
me.
job in that scene
Like,
too.
yeah,
They all,
that's-
they all act like I feel like this was so many people's best performances.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. Like this, in some ways, I think Infinity War was for the fans, but I think Endgame, in a lot of ways, was for the actors, and especially the longtime MCU actors, because they each got to do something that was
Especially Jeremy
really
Renner.
powerful, dramatically, and like real character work.
Yeah.
They were like, okay, you've played around in tights and suits for a while. Here's some real like dramatic work you can.
I remember
But
wondering,
it was even like that. Even I mean, just even when you look at the filmmaking, it was so the shots were incredibly intimate in just being it's just up close and personal, and it just gave you that sort of extra sense of like, oh, there's some real
and they didn't get moments in Infinity War because it was a Thanos movie, and this movie hardly had Thanos in it. Really, it had Thanos in the one scene in the first act, and then
Yep.
I can listen to Josh Brolin talk as Thanos all day.
I hope we see Thanos again in the MCU, somewhere. I don't know how. I don't care if it's a prequel, something. I mean, but I think Thanos is such an interesting character.
Yeah, I mean, there's all this. The whole permanence of death is always a big question in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
What if? I mean, I think there's a cool opportunity to go back in time where you need Thanos to help the Avengers.
Yeah, I mean, there
done that
is
before.
all of that on the table.
they've done it again.
Let's save that because we're getting into
Yeah.
like what we should see in Phase 4.
I want to say one of my favorite moments though.
Yeah, go ahead.
When I thought Captain America was gonna say, "Before we get started, does anybody want to get out?"
Oh, in the elevator
and he
scene?
says, "Hail Hydra."
Yeah.
I lost it. I was like, "Oh my god, that was
Everybody-
genius!"
This shot of him walking out and just like the looks
Yeah,
on everyone's
this is
face on the
great.
elevator was
Yep.
priceless.
Yep.
Yeah. No,
Oh,
I mean
so
that
good.
was something like where everybody in my theater like got up on the edge of their seat when the elevator opens and he walks in and everybody starts putting together like this is the
Because
Winter
we all
Soldier
saw,
scene. Yeah.
we've seen this scene. It's one of the best action
Yeah.
sequences in the entire
And everybody's
MCU.
like, it's gonna go down, and then like when he's just like, "Hail Hydra," because you thought he was gonna say, like, "Yeah, does anybody want to get off before we begin?" And it's just like, "Hail Hydra."
And
then
Paul
everybody's
Rudd's
just
line
like-
before that, like they kind of look like bad guys. Like
Yeah.
he's looking at them. It's fantastic.
Oh man, that is when they're coming to collect everything.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's a lot of. I mean, one of the best things I thought about the movie was all the intercool parts, like that they kind of fit in, showing you these other sides of like what was happening during these other movies that you never saw before.
And they kind of broke the fourth wall a couple times too. If you think of it, like the Hulk says, it's kind of gratuitous, but I'll do it. He takes his shirt off and then he's like, ah. And then the same thing where they extended the scene from the Avengers when they caught Loki.
Yep.
And then 2012 Tony turns around and he's like, all right guys, well if we're done posing, we can keep moving. And he like kind of mocks the fact that they all struck that pose over Loki. I was like, that's interesting that they're going with this kind of self-aware vibe.
I mean, why not? It's fun. Yeah.
Oh no, it
Like,
was great. It worked.
I love the Hulk scene when he has to go down the stairs. That
I was so mad when he knocked over Tony Stark. At the
That was
time,
great.
this was going so well.
That was
I
fantastic.
love the scene where Professor Hulk sees Dumb Hulk smashing a car on a Chitauri, and he's just like, oh.
Yeah,
It was just
like
watching these movies again will be different now. It'll be
Exactly.
a different experience watching the first Avenger, the first Avengers, Winter Soldier, Dark World, the Guardians of the Galaxy. they'll all be a different experience now. And the Russos have said that. They've said, like, I think it'll be interesting to go back and watch the older MCU movies through a different lens.
And I think one of the things I also liked was the twist with how bringing past Thanos to the future and having that whole thing, because that was kind of, it connected a lot of things that I think were like set up by Infinity War really well. Like when he tells Stark, like he's not the only one cursed with knowledge.
I was
Basically
wondering how that was
telling
going
him,
to pay off. I was
I'm
really
as
wondering.
smart as you. I can figure things out like you. And then like my whole theater, just like that scene where he's with and they figure out there's another Nebula and he starts putting all the pieces together. Everybody in my theater is just like, oh, sugar, honey, iced tea. Like, oh no, like, oh no.
Well, but it gets to that point
so
too, where
bad
it's
for
like
Nebula.
the whole like Thanos saying like I am inevitable. Like there were a number of points in that movie where you thought, oh, maybe he's right.
Yeah.
Like and I thought that was a very cool aspect of the character that played out really, really well. In that, like Thanos is someone who has always been super confident, and no matter what happens, he will always kind of be super confident.
Yeah.
I really like that about that.
All right, so we're gushing over it. Let's stop being polite and start getting real. Like, what are some things that you were disappointed in the movie, even if they're like even minor?
I've got one. I've got one that just I can't wrap my head around. One Pym particle brought Thanos' entire effing army to the freaking world, to the future.
Yeah, how did they do that?
Like what?
Yeah.
They made a huge deal about like we only have one left and it's only for us.
Why don't they just
brings
spread it
the
out?
Entire effing army.
I guess he can fit a lot on that ship. I don't know,
Like,
man.
What the hell is that about?
That's very true. I also,
I know where you got emotional. It was probably when you saw Captain Marvel's future haircut.
Oh, the haircut.
Oh, that I lost
love
my
that.
mind. I lost my mind because that's
that.
how it should be.
No.
Yeah,
Captain
that's how
Marvel
it should
was
be.
All right,
like-
but like seriously, I said it in the office. I'm not going to shy away from saying it here. My biggest disappointment was seeing this made me. You can confirm when you see this that they shot this before Captain Marvel, because the character we were talking that when we reviewed Captain Marvel, we said one of our big hopes was that in the Russo's hands we could get some more from Carol than her own solo movie allowed us to get with its kind of
And we didn't.
approach. And we didn't. Like this movie, she felt kind of really shoehorned in. Like
She didn't even feel shoehorned in. Like that's my issue is that she's barely in the movie.
She was a plot.
She's in the movie
Deus
for
Ex
5
Machina,
minutes.
like yeah,
Like
there's a big
as
ship
soon
still
as
in the
that
sky. What are we
scene
gonna do
hits-
about that?
As soon as the scene hits where she goes, by the way, I'm going to be gone for a very long time. Exposition note, right? I'm going to be gone for like most of this movie. As soon as that scene happened, I went, oh, great. Like she's not going to come in until the final act. And lo and behold, it's the final act.
I mean,
she finally comes in.
I'm not mad that she was barely in the movie. I think she was too new, and like we were saying earlier, this gave so many of the original characters such a great role. But
They made such
I
an
think-
important part, though, of building her up. And then to
Yeah.
only
But-
make her literally do, she does.
think about how big of a role Black Panther had in Infinity War.
That's true, and he
Wasn't a huge role. It was all at the same time, so it wasn't in the
He
beginning
got-
and the end.
He got more, I feel like his thing made more of an impact than her.
no
His world did.
His world
That's
did,
the problem.
yes.
That's
It's
the
his
problem.
entire
Infinity War
army.
needed
Yeah, his,
Infinity
like,
War
yeah.
needed Wakanda.
Wakanda and Black Panther
whereas
felt very present. Like Captain
Yeah.
Marvel just is.
Captain
like,
Marvel's
even
story had no
somehow
place
more
here, though.
Bland in this.
Yes,
movie.
it did.
Captain Marvel's
Yes, it
narrative,
did.
the Captain Marvel movie had no relevance to Endgame. Besides,
it did. The
besides
fact that
losing
in the
Nick
Captain
Fury.
Marvel movie, you learned that like she can take on big giant ships by just blasting.
well, sure, I agree. You
so
learned her power set.
Yeah.
Her power set was learning the character.
And there's no way to
People who
work in
didn't
the
see-
scrolls.
people-
There's no way to work in all her time on all these different
How are we
galaxies
going to
and
work
bring
it?
it.
Dude, it was
Well,
3 hours long.
I mean, but
already.
they did give her some moments that
No, I'm saying that's a
that-
choice.
that
That's the
carried a bit
choice
of
they made.
weight.
It's not that she doesn't fit. It's that the directors made a choice not
yeah,
to
but the
feature
movie was
her.
already 3 hours long. How are we going to add
That's something
scrolls?
else.
Well, but Captain
Like-
Marvel didn't even have a script when they shot Infinity.
I know,
when
but
they
I'm
shot
not
Endgame.
saying that. I'm saying
And you can tell. That's
That-
what
yeah,
I'm-
and that's thing you could tell.
Yeah,
and that's a problem to me because that was disappointing. I
Also,
was
she's
like,
wearing a different costume.
I agree.
than
I
when
think
you
her
saw
role
the
was
post-credit scene.
the Phi
What the
Lavelle
hell is that
costume.
about?
the Phi Lavelle costume. That was awesome. Yeah,
I thought she was
so
just
sad.
very convenient for the movie.
yeah. She was just a plot device.
It's a
more
plot,
than a
and that's
character.
disappointing.
Yeah,
That's
and that
not
was,
what I
that
wanna
was
see.
my disappointment.
Yeah.
On the flip side, my biggest disappointment was Black Widow.
Yeah,
that was another one.
There's going to be a lot written about this whole Soul Stone thing. The fact that they just keep dropping female characters off of things into bloody ends at the bottom of it.
I understand, like looking at it kind of objectively, right? Of all the characters that they had left to do something, like all the characters that were alive, like Black Widow is the only one who had, like, she didn't really have, quote unquote, family or true ties. And so I see how they could have done that. Like the only other possible character they could have done that with that doesn't have any like real ties anywhere else may have been Rhodey, but I think that's also a bad, potentially a bad luck. You just maim Rhodey in every, Avengers movie. And so it just felt weird, especially to not have Black Widow in that A-Force moment.
Yeah. It felt, and what I will say is like my impressions of the movie, I feel bad going after you guys because like I really enjoyed it. I really liked it as a movie, but I'm not as high as other people. I feel like it. There's some parts here that I don't love. Like I'm not as high on it as other people. But I thought that I know you love Hawkeye, and I know the family part was a big part. But that in that moment, I honestly thought if they're gonna go for a gut punch, you go for him. Because that.
I would have been okay. I would have been okay with that.
Yeah, and I don't.
If Hawkeye disappeared,
if Hawkeye was
sacrificed
himself.
Yeah, for a minute they make you think that he.
And that's a great sequence. It's an awesome sequence. And then when it landed, I like Anissa noticed actually when we were in the theater that like that moment didn't resonate. Like no one in the audience.
Oh, it
didn't resonate.
It did for me
with ours because they were like.
It did for me too.
It didn't. There was no oh my god or anything like that. It was like it landed with a thud because I feel she got gypped. That's a jippy death.
I think it was confusing in the fact that some people may have thought that like she could potentially
come back.
Some of that I think is true
because the Soul Stone's too confusing.
I mean, I don't mind the death.
I'll just say I got it because I was writing about this. We kind of wrote about how will they finish out Black Widow and Hawkeye's arc, and their arc was always set up to be this doom thing because she basically was supposed to be dead. He gives her another life, so she gave him a life back. So restore.
Right. And I get you right, and you're right. It comes full circle from that scene where she gives the bit of background in Avengers 1 when she's talking to Loki. Like that's it. That
I love the
story
premise. I didn't like the execution.
No,
I think
I also thought it was weird to show the body.
No, because it's Gamora now. It was red blood, and now you have red blood and green blood.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's also the MCU if you don't show a body, like
because
we're
it's history.
Still alive.
It was a history they were actually kind of changing.
I mean, I think in the moment it was hard to accept, like, oh wow, is she really dead? Because they're trying to bring everybody back, so it felt like you didn't get the impact of her death. But also, I think it comes down to how long are these people going to play these parts? Like they want to do this Hawkeye TV show. I think that factored into it. Like I think that the narrative there, whether it's Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, or Jeremy Renner, I think a part of it is okay. We have a Black Widow movie, but we don't have Scarlett Johansson forever, so she's probably done after the movie. That's probably why they're giving her the movie, so that it's like she can get the full Marvel experience as an actress. That really probably is what's happening.
But when I see the movie, I shouldn't have to factor all that in. I should be able to go, that character died because of this and this and this. I shouldn't have to worry about their contracts. That's not why I go to a movie.
Right.
Well, no, but
I'm sorry. That's
I'm okay with Black Widow's death.
I don't get paid from them.
Mainstream audiences don't care either. Like they're going.
And it also makes more sense for her to die than Hawkeye. Like her family is he's trying to see his family.
Right.
But that doesn't mean I have to like it. That was her whole ledger thing.
It makes perfect sense. I'm not critiquing the Russos as going, this point fits better into this point.
Yeah.
I'm saying, as a movie, it doesn't work as well as if Hawkeye had been the one because it doesn't get as much emotional. It doesn't resonate as much.
But if Hawkeye died, it would have been stupid because the whole point was for Hawkeye to reunite with his family.
Right. And how much more devastating would that have been if he...
That would have just been stupid.
How is it stupid?
Tony died too, and he just had a family, and that's okay. Why is that okay, and the other's not?
Tony had to do it to save everyone.
And he would have done the same thing. He literally, if it had been, he wants to sacrifice himself.
This Soul Stone thing is going to be split.
It's the same thing. You just like one more than the other.
Infinity War, so we're just going to put a plug in that.
No, I like
let's
Iron
talk
Man. I
about-
don't see how that's different.
it's going to be a debate. Let's not get it down the rabbit hole you here. Let's talk a little bit about Phase 4 because there is a lot in this movie that we should talk about and kind of setting up Phase 4. First of all, let's talk about the big thing, the time jump. You know, we have a major time jump in the MCU to 5 years from now, which is kind of a big deal because they also bring, I mean, just the time travel, metaphysical mechanics of this, they bring everybody back from the snap 5 years later.
Yeah.
So half the world has been alive in this nightmare for 5 years, and half the world is just back like, what the hell happened, and has to adjust to the fact that 5 years have gone by. Which instantly, when I came out, I was like, damn, Marvel, you're good. Like,
That's great,
that
yeah.
instantly made me more interested in the title of Spider-Man Far From Home. I was like, now that title takes on, like, potentially, like, much deeper meanings.
Those trailers have a whole different feel now.
Oh, that was a good, and that's when I got unexpectedly emotional, was seeing Peter Parker and Ned see each other in the hallway and try to do their, their whole handshake sequence again. Like that whole thing, like.
But like, when is that?
unexpectedly emotional.
When is that?
What do you mean?
When is that?
I mean, they don't explain it.
But,
I mean, we
but
don't
when,
know.
like, I don't understand
Because
how.
it's 5 years
If
later.
it's 5 years later. Why are all the same people still in high school?
Right.
It's a good question.
Because yeah, I mean, do we know if Ned got dusted or not?
I mean, if the
That
the
we
argument
know.
is if
Yeah,
all
we
of
don't.
him and his friends got dusted, then they still have to finish high school even if it's 5 years later because
Yeah.
they're the same age.
Yeah.
But that means all of them, the entire cast of Far From Home,
Is now
got
out of
dusted,
high school.
and now they're back and they're back in high school because none of them.
And they might, and
Grew
this is
up.
why I'm interested now. This is the trick that now hooks you about Spider-Man Far From Home because, yeah, maybe all the classmates, the main characters got dusted, but maybe there aren't. There are other people they're going to come in contact with who are further along in life and completely gone, and they may have to deal with the fact that they were gone for 5 years and the world has like moved on and changed. That might be part of the storyline. I mean, it almost has to be at this point, and it'll be interesting to see.
Do we know if Happy was dusted?
I don't know for sure.
I don't think he was. I can't remember.
And
don't
these
think
are
we
like,
know.
yeah, and this is all
Because
kind of-
everybody who it seems like everybody who is in Far From Home that we know of, like Maria Hill, Nick Fury, Spider-Man, all those people were dusted. Well, I don't know if Happy Hogan was, but
Did
I
he
mean-
get a poster? I can't remember if he got one of those great.
oh yeah,
posters
he
or
did
not.
get one, but I don't know if it was in black and white, wasn't it?
Happy's poster. Was it black and white or color?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
I can't remember.
I saw John Watts at the premiere, and I immediately after the movie ended, and I was like, "Whew, good luck following that one." And he was like, "I
was in
don't
color.
know what to do."
The color, so
Happy
he was
Hogan
alive.
was not dusted.
He was not dusted. Okay.
Okay, so he would be older than everybody in Far From Home.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be, I mean, this whole kind of future of the MCU is kind of going to be crazy to kind of figure out. And I can't wait to start. Kevin Feige, he's either going to be in a bunker for a little bit. But the 5-year thing is interesting because I was thinking about it and, you know, you have sequels that will deal with, you know, these heroes coming back 5 years later, like what happens in Wakanda and with Doctor Strange and all that. What's Baron Mordo been up to if he's not dusted for 5 years? But you really don't have to start dealing with this in the 5 years in a new present until pretty much closer into the 2020s, with given the films that we know are kind of coming down the pike. Things like Shang-Chi or
Yeah.
the Eternals could be set within the 5 years that, you know, people are gone if these things happen, or they're not really relevant to the time so much as the franchises we know.
Be cool if the Black Widow movie is set in those 5 years.
I mean, that could be really cool too. Something she did, and if it's set like that or a prequel, like yeah, but they don't need to kind of necessarily immediately start picking up that thing. The only film that will be Far From Home, really immediately kind of dealing with that, and then we could take detours before we have to start.
So you're saying Far From Home is going to be the Iron Man 3?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I'm wondering how much Phase 4 in general, like Phase 4 could be all fallout from Endgame. Every movie could be. I mean, you could do Shang-Chi and the Eternals just at different times, but if they want to, like, I mean, there are, I guess, plot holes that need explaining and that are going to change things. So I mean, and also just the aftermath of Endgame and the aftermath of like the world now doesn't have Tony Stark or Captain America.
Yeah, those.
They don't have
friends,
Steve
I
Rogers,
mean,
Captain America. So
By the way, we missed one of the coolest moments.
What?
Is when he gives the shield
to Sam.
to Sam.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
amazing. I cannot wait. For
I
that.
want to know.
Old
I would
man
like to
Captain
know
was
why
really
they
cool.
like how they explain why Bucky was like, yeah, you go. Because wouldn't Bucky like?
I took it that Bucky, when he said goodbye to Bucky before he got on the platform,
Bucky knew.
Bucky knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And he knew exactly. I mean, and it was a deep cut. Bucky knows what Steve wants, like, more than anything in the world.
And Sam's
see
gonna
that girl.
need support.
Because that
as
was
this
how they
new hero.
started. Remember, like, he was at the dance. He had 2 girls in, like, that whole scene that plays out in First Avenger. So he knew what his
And
best
Sam's
friend
gonna
wanted.
need someone as a rock while he does this, because this is gonna be a completely different experience for him.
Yeah.
If it's anything like the books, which is awesome. I was
Yeah.
a big fan of the Falcon Captain America days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I want to know. First of all, I think Kevin Feige is a genius for allowing these actors to kind of put more of their mold in the character. Like, I just love that they just are like so want to keep Chris Hemsworth around. They're like, you want to get weird with Thor, man? Get weird with Thor. Just like get weird with Thor. And
That
like,
was one of my biggest turnoffs for the movie. I thought the Thor stuff, the funny Thor stuff. I mean, I'm one of those people who likes Ragnarok, but I am like at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of how much they like it. I thought it was too funny. It's just the stakes didn't feel there. So I thought when you bring in the scene with Thor in New Asgard and he's super fat and like, I mean, it was funny, but it was also like, all right, we have like a lot going on here. I don't care for all these jokes right now.
It's a weird.
The Fortnite jokes.
It's a weird thing to kind of play with, right? Because clearly Thor is depressed,
yeah.
and it's a really kind of fine line to
tread into Austin Powers territory with him.
yeah, but at the same, like, here is someone who is just racked. He is racked with guilt, right? And his environment, the situation, him getting fat, all that stuff is like, those are just like clear-cut signs of just like of depression. Like,
Yeah.
and so for them to like kind of joke about it is like, I feel like this should be a little bit more serious, but given what they've done with the character, it kind of makes sense. And then,
Yeah.
he finally comes around after, seeing his mom. And then when he, walks out with him and Iron Man and Cap when they're about to go.
You know what I was
crap
happy
out of
about though?
Thanos.
That they didn't immediately.
like when he got his lightning and thinned him up and like he.
Yeah, I didn't want that. I love that he literally is
And then it
battling
bearded
Thanos.
it, and it braided his
They
beard.
braided it. Someone said that next to me. Also, everyone booed at the Fortnite joke. Did anyone else get that in their audience? As soon as that hit, everyone was like, boo. And I
Well,
was
the
like,
Fortnite
whoa.
stuff was about a
People
year
were just
too
freaking
late.
out about Korg and Meek in my.
I was losing my mind with Korg.
So like yeah.
The dab joke and the Fortnite jokes were both like a year too late.
Yeah, but like the just Thor kind of I want to know, is Thor going to be in Guardians 3? Is like
As Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, like, is that
I
happening?
mean, that would be a pretty cool
I would love
twist.
it.
I would love to see Thor in James Gunn's hands.
yeah.
Oh my god.
And like him competing with like Peter Quill to get our body.
That scene was great.
Like yeah,
Like
that
if
was
you
great.
give me a movie that has a bunch of those types of scenes, I'm down for that.
It'd be really. I'm really interested to see. Is this Gamora always the Gamora that was always part of the plan? Like, with that whole like, are we doing Guardians 3? Are we not doing Guardians 3? I mean, James Gunn was still listed as
She
an
wasn't on the
exec
ship at the end of the
producer.
movie.
Huh?
Gamora wasn't on the ship.
No.
Well,
He was
no,
searching
right, but
for
I
her.
mean,
She
but
snuck
they're
back
look,
out
but
of
they're
the
but they're
universe.
looking
Yeah.
for her. I mean, you saw Peter
like search for spots.
Yeah. And so, like, is that going to be a factor in Guardians 3? And was that always the plan?
Yeah, I'd be interested in that.
Yeah.
How annoying must that be if you're James Gunn, that you have to like base your movie on someone else's?
But
But he doesn't.
But
I mean,
Gunn is listed as an exec producer. He was.
well, yeah, I
he,
know.
He had a huge part in the story
knew,
for
right?
Infinity War,
Yeah.
so he had to know.
I mean, I'm sure he
And
knew.
this is just consolidating. I mean, a cosmic universe that has been Thor Ragnarok bent towards a Guardians mold. So this kind of makes sense, and people love the Thor like rocket and Groot kind of
I
trio.
just like the
You
big
think they
question
get
for me
Hulk,
is
too?
how does it fit into sort of the grand Guardian story that
Yeah.
James Gunn is trying to tell?
Do they get the Hulk too?
Huh?
You think they take the Hulk too?
No, I think one Smart Hulk is my favorite Hulk.
MVP
But I think they
of the movie.
yeah,
that was
I-
like that was
love
one of the
Hulk.
best
I think
kept
Hawkeye's
surprises. Like the whole Professor Hulk thing.
I think
was great.
Hawkeye gets MVP because he finally mattered.
well, yeah. I mean, as much as I love Hawkeye,
So you get a
I
participation
think,
award, but
I think Hulk, but like it's one of those things where I love how they went to show that Bruce Banner is still very smart, but he's not that smart.
he's awesome. I absolutely
Still kinda
love-
clumsy.
This is out of my like with his whole thing. Like this is out of my field. Like I don't do this. I'm really smart and like.
Even just like the scene in the restaurant.
Oh,
and
where he's taking the selfie and
Yeah.
it's like, do you want it? Do you want one? And they don't know me. Like that whole. See, also I
Take the
got
damn phone.
Ant-Man was. I agree with you though. Ant-Man was supremely like he's one of the best parts
Yeah, Ant-Man
of this
was,
movie.
Ant-Man was really good.
They put him on a pedestal and it was nice.
Yeah, no, it was. It was nice to see.
Paul
we
Rudd
got
kept
that
up with
promise.
everybody, too.
Yeah, the promise of like who wasn't featured in Infinity War as much would be like heavily featured in this film was really fulfilled.
I think this was the first time I didn't see Paul Rudd and I actually saw like Scott Lang and Ant-Man the whole time.
I tell you what, I thought Tilda Swinton's The Ancient One got way more like personality and characterization in the 3 minutes
Right?
total she was on screen than she did
Yes.
for all of Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
that
it
was-
made Anissa want to go watch Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I mean they got every film. They made you want to go back and watch just about every film, even The Dark World.
Even the Dark World.
Yeah,
When he's describing.
the
When he's-
actor. Yeah.
That's a great.
And his
moment.
Lebowski costume.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I mean like so many just deep cuts, so many ways to just pay off the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and
So what do you think Hulk's future is?
I don't know. That's a big.
I think
X
Hulk's
thing,
future
but,
will be at what it's always been. Like supporting /
yeah.
side main character.
So where do you think we see him again?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I honestly don't know. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, of the movies that we think are in production,
She-Hulk?
Eternals and Black Widow, I don't think they fit unless Black Widow takes place in that 5-year gap, right? Like, I don't.
Yeah, they
I
got to
don't
make
know.
another they got to make another movie and essentially do a Thor Ragnarok type mix.
But I think, but I
Like,
kind of think it's okay to put Hulk on a shelf for a little while.
yeah.
And then that way,
I
the
mean, they
next
hurt
time,
his arm, and that
right?
kind of made
and that way,
him-
the next time you see him, you get a bit more impact.
But I agree. I love Smart. He's my favorite Hulk.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's the
Brilliant.
best Hulk.
He's brilliant.
Yeah, that was really good. Mark Ruffalo has really just taken this role and just
It's so
really
good.
made it his own. And they teased that. They said that this would be like the most Ruffalo Hulk we got, and it very much was. And it really, really worked. And it was like really, yeah. I enjoyed that a lot. What about that Game of Thrones style battle when Captain America did his Battle of the Bastards stand against the whole Thanos army?
Man,
That shot, I mean, that is like was the money shot. You talk about the
When he
Avengers
started walking
circular
towards
shot.
Thanos.
Yeah, and then like the portals open up and everybody
my
starts
God.
jumping out.
Dude, and then even like Giant Man just like popping up out of the
my
out of the
God.
compound,
With Hulk
just,
in his
like, walking
hand.
through. I was like,
The War Machine armor, that War Machine armor at the end of the movie.
where the hell did that come from?
I don't know. I was like, wait, did they just have like a
Wait,
spare?
oh my God, this made me, I can't believe I'm blanking on this. I'm still like processing so much. The one thing I do not like, and I think is a major plot hole for me, is after everything everybody saw in Infinity War, I get it why Hulk had to do a snap to bring everybody back. That was necessary. I don't get why Tony Stark had to kill himself with a snap, as opposed to just using the individual powers of the Infinity Gauntlet to take out a whole army.
I could see it as just a quick desperation move. I don't think like he was already in rough shape. The power, like he was, I don't think he would have survived using the gauntlet to blast away everyone. And the only way that he was going to be able to just end it.
And Doctor Strange told him there's only one way.
Right, and that's the thing. I mean, you saw what it did to Thanos. You saw what it did to Hulk. I mean,
They couldn't beat Thanos. They couldn't, like, Captain Marvel couldn't beat Thanos. And granted, I was like, wait, why are y'all going at him one at a time right now? Because it was Cap,
Right.
then it was Thor,
Yeah.
then it was Captain Marvel, and then it was Iron Man. And I was like, if y'all would have just gone at the same time, would have been much different. But when he throws
Not
Cap
really,
off of
Star-Lord
punches
was back
Cap
on
in
the
the head.
battlefield. Oh, Star-Lord was
But
back on the
he
battlefield.
tosses
Ruined
Cap
the game.
off of him and punches him in the head, and you're like, well, Cap's not coming back to this fight. Then Thor beats Thor, throws Captain Marvel, and I was like, wait, hold on. All he did was throw her. And then she comes back, and I was like, oh, okay. I thought she was there to say, but I want to know, and I have a cool theory I want to just throw out there. Thanos' sword was able to destroy Captain America's shield, which was made of vibranium, the strongest, most unbreakable thing in the world, in the universe, basically. So,
In the MCU.
in the MCU,
Right.
what if Thanos' sword is made of adamantium and we break it down and put it in Wolverine one day?
Whoa.
That'd be cool.
It's a cool cut. Yeah.
And here we go. And here we go. But that's a good point. Speaking of Wolverine, I mean, like we were saying about the time jump, the reason I was bringing that up is now it doesn't seem so crazy when Kevin Feige's saying things like a 5-year plan until we get to X-Men. Like you said, there's so much we have to do with just the fallout of Endgame, things that possibly happened in those 5 years, all this stuff to clean up before
There has to be
the
an entire phase.
Yeah, before things actively start moving forwards, and you possibly begin to find out that not everything is.
But I think
As it used
that's
to
what
be.
that is what something that will give the MCU continued life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and they will do a bunch of this cleanup stuff, and then boom, we're like Marvel, Disney doing the X-Men is gonna just kick off a whole nother thing, and then there's still the Fantastic Four that they can fit in.
I don't
basically
think
at any point in time.
that they'll ever get as big of a movie as this one. I mean, maybe more characters
Until
somehow.
they do Avengers versus X-Men, but
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like but I think that without Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans and Hugh Jackman, that movie, just the title is very exciting, but it doesn't get you what you want. I think though, one of the most exciting things, and I don't think it can lead to Endgame level of hype again. And anytime, maybe it'll take another 10 years, but I don't think we could get this big again with Marvel. I hope I'm wrong, but I really hope that since they see that this format works, that this shared universe building towards a big event works, they have their next end game in mind. So, and when I say that, I mean like if they knew they were going to time travel to these movies back when they made these movies, they would have put little subtle things in these movies.
Yeah.
And their time travel rules would have worked better. And like if the Avengers, after they caught Loki, said, "Oh, I heard something over there," and like you didn't know what it was, and then now it turns out it was Iron Man walking through the same scene, or just anything like that, or even Gamora's little knife that she had in the first movie that Thanos gave to her that we didn't see in the first two Guardians movies. Now that they know this works and they're going to start building towards things, I hope that they start planting those seeds in all of the next 25 movies.
I agree.
Until the next Endgame, and that way it all works. It all pays off even more.
Yeah.
So basically, you're saying after conquering the entertainment industry and making landmark new bars for what blockbuster films can do, you want Kevin Feige's job to get even harder.
Yes.
And have to plan this even deeper.
Dude, he took Iron Man from me. You know what? Screw that guy.
But, like, yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you on that. Oh man. So
can we talk about Ty Simpkins at the end? What the hell is that about?
Yeah. What are you guys talking about?
I
What is
think
this Ty
I think
Simpkins
we heard his
theory?
voice earlier in the movie.
So Ty Simpkins, who played
he's at the funeral.
Harley, who's the
Yeah.
kid from Iron Man 3,
Oh, yeah.
shows up at the funeral.
Oh, he
Black
was a
hair, though.
random kid.
He was the
Oh,
random kid.
he was the awkwardly older kid who I was like, who the hell
Right.
was that?
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
yeah.
that was Harley. I think we heard his voice, or I think when Tony got knocked out at one point, I think it was right when Avengers HQ fell down. You hear like a "Wake up, boss," and it's like really quickly. It sounds like it's Friday, but I'm pretty sure that it was Ty Simpkins' voice telling Tony to wake up. Like I think Tony's just motivated by saving the kids, man.
I don't know, man. That's a good. I mean, this is what leads into another big question. Like, we know the Hawkeye series is probably coming and might wrap up that character. We know Bucky and Falcon are probably doing a series together. None of these are hard confirmed or somewhat confirmed or whatever. But like the Captain America franchise, is that done now? Is there something we're going to transition into? Iron Man, or I mean, we heard rumors that Marvel was considering something like an Ironheart movie. Like, what happens next with all of those things?
Well,
and
I
all
think
of
you
these
can start
characters?
going down the road, and then we talked about this. I think a couple weeks ago or not, but the idea of legacy in the Marvel universe and how I think we're just now starting to see those seeds just start to germinate a bit. I mean, theoretically, the Kate Bishop series could set her up. We now know, Cassie Lang is older.
Yeah. And they purposely cast somebody and,
Right. But I
that
think
final shot of her with Ant-Man and Wasp.
there's a good chance that Harley could be the
I
next
miss
Iron
cute
Man,
little Cassie Lang though.
Iron Man type character.
And I mean, Sam's going to take
Cap.
over the
Yeah.
Cap
Right,
thing.
Sam will
And
take over
also
as
that
Cap.
gives you a Winter Soldier-esque, like being able to put Bucky in it. You can put another Marvel hero, throw them in the mix. It gives you another point. And you're watching this now. It's going
because
to be a
these are-
very different spin on Cap, and that's great.
But I think it was but these are all people who have grown grown up in a world where the Avengers exist and have have ties obviously to Avengers and whatnot. Like that's a thing that gets me immensely excited about like the future of the MCU is just like we're now finally starting to see the people that have lived in this world what that effect has.
Yeah.
And I think for us as, just fans who have sort of grown up in this world, it just makes the most sense.
Kamala
That's
Khan's
just-
going to be next up to plate too in the next.
Yeah.
So you think we're getting a Young Avengers in the next phase?
I think we're working towards a Young Avengers.
Which I'd be totally fine with.
All right. Well, I think that's about it. If anybody else has
Also, I
anything
would
else-
like to add just a thing because I feel like I came off extremely negative in this podcast. I'm really not. Like, I really enjoyed it. I feel like I went after you two, and I felt like I just had to kind
We're
of
still
fill
friends here.
fill a
We're all
void.
still friends here.
Fill a void. But as far like I really enjoyed this movie.
Matthew Aguilar is much more peppery.
It probably sits in my.
Ooh, rankings. Oh boy.
It
Here we
sits
go.
like it's not in my top 5, and it might not be in my top 10.
Okay, here's one I did want to end with. Let's go around.
That's wow.
You just set it up. So I mean, I think I know your answer. Now that we have both halves of this complete, Infinity Saga, which one did you like better? Did you like Endgame better or did you like Infinity War better? Let's start with you, Jim.
Such different movies.
Yeah,
really are.
Still, the question's going to come up. Let's get to it.
Endgame is going to be the one I probably watch over and over.
I don't know, man. Infinity War's rewatchability is it's like
No,
four
because
movies in one.
you get everything that you need from Infinity War in Endgame.
I kind of agree with that. I feel like I don't need to I didn't feel like I needed to rewatch Infinity War to get it all. I feel like I need to rewatch Endgame to pick up all the little things.
No, Endgame tells you that Thanos beat their butts and
Infinity War, you mean?
Endgame says, but Endgame tells you everything you need to know about Infinity War.
Yeah, but also
fairly
Infinity
well.
War weighs different characters and has different stuff.
I want to watch that final battle scene
think-
over and over and
I don't
over.
know, man.
Return of
Infinity
the
War
King's my
jumps from
favorite
like
Lord of the Rings
four
movie,
really
so-
interesting story threads to the next. Like it just goes like Thor's story with Rocket and Groot and just all the different. I don't know which one's more rewatchable.
I mean, I like all those bits from Infinity War, but I think as a movie that I will probably like if given the chance and they're sitting side by side, I don't think that's recency bias for me either. I only watched Infinity War again before having to go see.
I actually said Infinity War last night when I came out of Endgame, but interestingly enough, I woke up and now I'm not so sure. Like, I'm actually not sure. I have to see Endgame again to really kind of nail it down, but I'm not so sure. Like, Endgame is a fun experience, but I think there's a lot that I've rewatched Infinity War, more than a couple times, and there's a lot I like in that movie. Just so many of the character interactions I love in that movie that you get more of, where this one is like, there is a bit more of a slower burn build up to like the first act and seeing what happened to everybody after the 5-year jump and stuff. And those are parts I could see myself fast forwarding past in the future. Whereas Infinity War is pretty much start to finish, just like boop, 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 boop.
yeah, the first 45 minutes of Endgame I feel like are kind of skippable after you watch them once.
Yeah.
There's great moments, but I agree. Yeah, like it was a little.
It was necessary,
slow.
but it was a lot. It was a
Yeah,
lot.
and it was just to give the actors time each to stretch and really work some scenes and do some stuff. Like, and I get that, but like, yeah, I mean, yeah, still, I think my favorite line out of both films is still the Drax and Mantis line. You know, what do? We kick names and take ass. And then Tony Stark's just like Robert Downey Jr.'s reaction after that
Is amazing.
Yeah, and just like moments like
Dude,
that.
we're not gonna get any more Robert Downey Jr. reactions.
I don't think that's saying. I think that's the thing I'm dealing with now. Is like it hasn't like really sunk in.
We're not gonna get any more
Chris
Iron Man.
Evans is probably gone, and Robert Downey Jr. is dead. Like Iron Man is really dead. Oh man, and that last line that he gets, well, "I am Iron Man," just taking it all back. Like
I thought when I first saw it, when he said, "And I am," and I was like, "Tired of you." Say "tired of you" or something. Don't die. And he goes, "Iron Man," and I was like, "Oh god." And then they don't show him for the next like minute and a half. And I was like, "Yo, where's my boy at?"
I'm not the
Where's
biggest.
Tony?
I've never been like the biggest Gwyneth Paltrow Pepper Potts fan, but I will admit like that scene between.
no, they gave her really.
Like when she just says like you can rest now and all.
We'll
that
be
stuff.
okay. Like
That was
oh,
crushing.
Yeah.
I didn't cry, but that was crushing.
Yeah,
Like,
they gave
Do
her
we-
really good work to do in this movie.
This is a bit of a.
When they fought back to back,
yeah, that was
yeah.
awesome.
This is a bit of a tangent, but I wanted to sort of go back to something Brandon had said at the very beginning about the first argument between Tony and Cap. Do we think that was altered, or do we think that that Robert Downey Jr. really got that gaunt?
no, that was So when we saw
Altered,
the
or he got
when we saw the footage on the Disney lot,
Uh-huh.
they showed us the space scene where he was very skinny, which it didn't look like that in the trailer. And so we talked to the Russo brothers afterwards, and we were just asking how they did it. It was very similar technology to what they did in the first Avenger, where they had a different body
Skinny,
and they had, I guess they did different digital stuff to his face, and they were just saying how the technology has evolved and it makes it much easier to do now. And that's what they did was they.
It looked really good.
it did, and I was like,
It was totally believable.
and
No,
and
Downey
I wouldn't
didn't
have put
get
it
that
past
skinny.
Robert Downey Jr. to maybe do that, but I was like,
He didn't do that, no.
Ooh.
But yeah, no, it looked great.
That was an intense scene, yeah. But all right, that seems like a weird enough place to just wrap this up and leave it all there. If you want to talk about Avengers Endgame spoilers with us, you can find us at the hashtag Comic Book Nation. If you are just tuning in for the first time, ride with us because the show is good and we do it Wednesdays and Fridays. And you can find new episodes on Comicbook.com. We have an RSS feed that you can subscribe to. You can subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts. And you can find us individually online. You can find me at Kofi Outlaw.
You can find me at Matt Aguilar CB.
And you can find me at Brandon Davis BD.
And
You can't find Jim Viscardi.
you can find Jim Viscardi at Jim Viscardi.
At And here we go. Like I said in our last episode, we were living in one universe before we saw Avengers Endgame, and now we're living in another universe after we've seen it. So
I love how we thought we weren't going to like talk about Avengers Endgame much longer after this, but we're probably going to be talking about Avengers
yeah,
Endgame.
there's going to be a lot of stuff that
much
comes
longer
back up.
after this.
And we're not even through the weekend yet because Game of Thrones is coming up and the Battle of Winterfell. When we come back for our next episode, we're going to be equally as scarred by the Battle of Winterfell and trying to deal with all that. So
Love you 3000.
yeah, go to your happy place. Everybody go to your happy place for a while. This is Comic Book Nation, signing off.
Deuces.